What's a conspiracy you truly believe? Removed. This is my new favorite conspiracy edit. Comment above used to say they believe questions like this are posed by the NSA to find out how much the public really knows. Apparently it comes up every time this question gets asked. Though it was my first time hearing it. I think the trend where you show a picture of yourself now versus 10 years ago was promoted if not invented by Facebook-owned social media companies in order to train artificial intelligence to be able to recognize and analyze how faces age. This is true for pretty much anything on social media. All those quizzes. Post if you believe. Whatever random meme just lets them collect data for AI modeling or more nefarious purposes. Never do the your porn star name is your mother's maiden name plus the last 6 of your social security number posts. The government puts out really crazy conspiracies so the people that post about legitimate conspiracies come across as crazy and unbelievable. This is a new world. You don't keep secrets with silence anymore. You keep secrets with overwhelming false information. Big purses in bed with small pocket. Unit sells their biscuits in quantities of prime numbers. This forces you to buy more than one packet. To avoid divorces and arguments. Tim Tams come in packets of 11. Delta creams or orange creams come in packets of 17. Those devious bastards. That one of the main reasons the U.S. government is so against using taxpayer dollars to pay for students' colleges because they know that enrollment in the armed forces would plummet. That's also why they're against raising the minimum wage. And universal healthcare. That's not even a conspiracy. That nuclear technology and power was choked out by big oil and gas. And that fear of radiation was intentionally trumped up to incite public opposition to anything nuclear. I mean, that's barely even a conspiracy. Just plain fact. Egg coal power stations are allowed to put out more radioactivity than actual nuclear power stations. Even the purest coal contains all kinds of other shit. Some of which is only mildly radioactive. But burn enough coal. Here in Australia coal still calls the shots with many politicians openly in their pocket. That the printer alignment page your printer makes you print when you install a new ink cartridge or plug in your printer or any other basic printer action is complete made up nonsense that makes you think your printer is doing important printer maintenance while needlessly wasting ink. The fact that ink even costs enough for that to be a problem is the real conspiracy. Ink cartridges only cost manufacturers like 20 cents if I recall correctly. PETA isn't a legitimate animal rights organization like the AskReddit. While it has some true believers at the bottom, its most extreme stunts are funded mostly by the meat leather fur industries. The goal is to create a strawman, to make animal rights advocates look crazy to people who might otherwise be supportive. If corporations can create a campaign to make an old lady seem crazy when she got burned, they are definitely capable of doing this. Truly incompetent workers who get hired claiming 15+ years of experience but know nothing about their field are actually just people poorly placed by eyewitness protection. My nemesis, who was our new industrial engineer who zip-tied all the computer speakers to the floor, made me think of this one. XD makes you wonder that the government, more specifically FBI, was involved in the assassination of Martin Luther King. Related conspiracy theory. That footage of MLK is purposefully shown in black and white to give the impression the civil rights movement was further in the past than it actually was. Edit. This also applies to photographs. Not a very big conspiracy, but someone told me they heard Corona Beer Company started paying off news companies to stop calling it Corona and call it COVID instead, and I fully believe it. Everyone started calling it COVID right after it came out that Corona lost a lot in stocks because of it. You know what's crazy? I'd almost forgotten that we'd ever called it Corona at all. Guess the money was well spent, haha. My favorite conspiracy theory is that everything is going to be okay. Everything is going to be okay in the end. If it's not okay, then it's not the end. The really ugly first model of Sonic in the 2020 movie was made specifically for that first trailer. Just to incite memes and draw attention to itself. Then, when they decide to change the model, they're uplifted as heroes who listen to their fan base. Making an ugly model and animating it in just enough scenes for a commercial isn't that hard or expensive, and it's an intensely successful marketing campaign. I saw a post on Reddit from a Sonic animator. He said that there wasn't a conspiracy. One of the higher-ups was just a fucking idiot and chose a shit model despite literally everyone telling him it was garbage. It wasn't a brilliant marketing strategy. Just dumb management followed by an expensive correction. That my navigation cares more about traffic flow than the best route for me personally. I mean, to be fair, this can very often be same picture territory. If everyone's navigation tried to optimize for what's best for the driver, you'd easily get a situation that's worse for everyone, including you. That subscription models are the new hot thing because it takes all control and leverage away from the consumer because they no longer buy the product. They borrow it. If you buy a car, you can do whatever you want to it after you purchased it. If you subscribe aka borrow it, it's either agree to any and all terms provided by the owner or GTFO. End of discussion. No compromise. I don't think that's a conspiracy, it's literally what's happening. They don't even want you changing or fixing your own car anymore. Mattress firm is affiliated with money laundering. They have so many stores very close to each other in Chicago, miles apart. In my hometown, there are 3 at the same intersection, literally within view of each other. That the World Health Organization is run by owls. Edited for spelling because the owls were watching. And these owls are who exactly? That YouTube gets mad at me for skipping all their quick survey questions for ads. And punishes me by giving me ads for feminine products. My YouTube ads are weird. Enough to make me think I'm part of some undisclosed, unethical social experiment. Because Google definitely knows enough about my internet habits to target their ads better. This last week they started advertising monster porn to me. Which I didn't even realize was a thing. It's literally novels about humans being fucked by T-Rexes. Like, what af? Before that I was getting ads for super woke online courses such as pay $500 for this 6-week course that will explain why you're a racist cultural appropriator for doing yoga. I mean, who the hell actually would sign up for something like that? YouTube ads are whack. I made this one up myself, but once you read it, don't tell me it doesn't make sense. You know how for a really long time, China had that one-child policy? And male children are highly sought after. To the point that they were not keeping the pregnancy if it was a female. Or they were killing their female children. Well, now it's theorized that 1/3 of Chinese men won't be able to find a wife in China. So they won't make a family. And what can you do with a huge population of unmarried, childless men? Conscript them into the army. Edit. Hey everyone. It's all good. Like I said, I made this up. Don't worry, I doubt China is actually going to take over anytime soon. At least not by ground war. I read that most of the girls simply went unregistered with local authorities. China has been dealing with processing loads of undocumented female Chinese citizens for years. Jeffrey Epstein did not kill himself, especially when the guards were conveniently not on duty during Suicide Watch. The guards were conveniently not on duty during Suicide Watch. It would make sense if they were conveniently off duty during Murder Watch. The government wants us to be fat, uneducated, lazy and fearful. Tons of effort put into controlling as many people as possible. Go to bed, America. Bill Hicks. Gogurt is just yogurt. On the go. Conspiracy theories are created in order to muddy the waters so people don't learn the truth, which is often much more mundane. Reminds me of that one episode of The Office where Michael accidentally tells people that Stanley is having an affair. And then he tries to cover his ass by spreading a ton of fake rumors. Oscar is the voice of the Taco Bell dog. The educational system in America is designed to pump out idiots, making them easier to control. Not to mention that the length of a school day is roughly analogous to the length of a standard workday. Eisenhower's last address to the American people, he warned of the military-industrial complex as he seen played out. Military contractors supply the US and profit off of wars. Example, look at the trillions wasted on Afghanistan. I would go into more detail, but my non-disclosure still apples do the math. War is profit, plain and simple. JFK gave a similar speech before he died. JFK, RFK, and MLK all killed by the Tsar is what I believe. So, what you're saying is don't be known by a 3-letter acronym or the Tsar gets rid of you. Not really a full-blown conspiracy theory, but I'm convinced Nicki Minaj is coming out about being an anti-vaxxer so people talk about that instead of the fact her husband raped a woman and she's been trying to bribe and intimidate her into dropping the charges. Don't forget that her brother raped his 11-year-old stepdaughter for months. Sometimes multiple times per day. She wrote a letter to the judge before her brother went to trial asking him to be lenient on her brother because he was a good person. That our planet and galaxy is an atom in some giant people's planet. Cause atoms look slightly similar to galaxies. And it's an endless loop. The Men in Black conspiracy. The galaxy is in Orion's belt. That the Reagan administration helped sell crack cocaine to African American communities in the 1980s, and the reporter who broke the story, Gary Webb, was killed by the government and didn't commit suicide by shooting himself in the head twice. I thought this was just fact now. Wasn't it proven? The 2018 Hawaii missile alert was not a false alarm. I think a missile was launched and headed for Hawaii. I think the Air Force took care of that problem and then had to cover it up for some kind of geopolitical reason. There's just no way that a message like that has no redundancy or confirmation message. Operation Star Wars to the rescue. Yes, or an alternative theory is that it wasn't real but the test was initiated on purpose to see how people would react in the event of a nuclear attack announcement. Bots plus sock puppet accounts masquerading on Twitter as woke people to make actual progressive opinions look stupid by association. I mean, I'm still not 100% behind it, but I can defo see why people would do it. Honestly, Twitter is full of bot accounts to make people argue. It's like a modern day version of the experimental debates Kaczynski was subject to at university, where everything he said was disagreed with and questioned. I don't think people understand how this can shape their minds, and it's a powerful propaganda tool. T-Rexes still exist. They are undercover, disguised as chickens, carefully planning the day they'll take Earth over again. This is not true at all. T-Rexes are definitely dead and not plotting to overthrow humans with laser weapons. That many of the rich powerful deal in sex trafficking. Epstein is the tip of the iceberg. Aside from trafficking, we even see rape being commonplace in the fashion industry, Victoria's Secret, L brands etc. The music industry, hell. Even the powerful Lady Gaga was raped by a producer. And in Hollywood, Weinstein etc. A culture of violence against women and children permeates all social classes. Some men in the industry have been heckled too. Brendan Fraser comes to mind. My brother is a brony. My condolences. Hot dogs and hot dog buns come in packages of 10 and 8, respectively. So you have to buy more or one or the other to make the numbers match up. You've obviously never experienced the joy of 2 hot dogs in one bun. Or just go for a bratwurst. Or a brat and a hot dog. Or a brat and a burger. The Vegas shooter didn't act alone. For some reason it's being covered up. There was cell phone footage where you could see muzzle flashes from multiple windows. Then it all disappeared. They stopped talking about it. Tried to simply blame a guy for selling high-powered rounds without a license. That was a wrap. Vegas is a marketing juggernaut. Every one of those dozens of billion-dollar-plus casinos throwing money into making the nation forget that 1,000 people were killed or injured makes more sense than a cover-up. Humans are somewhat psychic. I've had around a dozen different dreams that were incredibly vivid, and parts of them, usually just a mundane setting, happens years later. Always leaves me with a weird feeling. This has happened to me many times. Always a weird feeling. New Coke was designed to fail and cover the switch from sugar to corn syrup. There is not only one Putin. There's Putin and Putout. GameStop, like many stocks before it, was systematically shorted into the ground via bank and hedge fund collusion. Is that even a conspiracy? I thought that was just a known fact. That most conspiracy theories are allowed to circulate by the powers that be, and they let certain false info leak to add fuel to the fire so they can use these conspiracy theories as a distraction from their real agenda. Part of keeping the commoners in a naive bubble. Conspiracy theories are the cover for the actual conspiracies. NordVPN and those other ones that advertise on YouTube are run by the US government. NSA. How else do they have such huge advertising budgets to sponsor every fucking YouTube channel and video? Plus, think about it. Instead of monitoring everyone's traffic and looking for people that are hiding something, you just release this VPN that's totally safe, and now all the people that actually have something to hide give you all their traffic. How many people are using NordVPN when they don't actually have something to hide? Most people don't care about privacy like that. Yeah, I understand the concept of not needing something to hide to want privacy, but from the government's perspective, is this not the best way to go about knowing who to monitor? I'd say 99% of the people using these just want to download movies and TV shows. The bacon hype that came about around the time Epic Mealtime started on YouTube was marketing campaign by the pork industry. This is a real thing. Adam ruins bacon. https://www. YouTube.com watch. V equals V4PQRX7 of Y. Jeffrey Epstein was a SIR, or a foreign intelligence, asset. Explains why he got away with what he got away with for so long, and also explains why he killed himself. If I recall correctly, Ghislaine Maxwell's father was Mossad. And there was a big fear she would run to Israel to escape prosecution in the US. That Epstein was killed to cover up who knew and participated in his crimes. Epstein provided a very specific service. He trafficked underage girls for extremely rich people to have sex with in a discreet manner. There are lots of ways for rich people to pay for sex with women legally in a discreet manner. The only reason for people to use Epstein's services was because they were pedophiles who wanted access to children. This alone asks very serious questions about people such as Trump and Prince Andrew, who demonstrably had extremely close ties to Epstein. These guys, however, are certainly the tip of the iceberg. There are probably much richer and powerful people involved here. I think the fact that an independent doctor ruled that Epstein didn't commit suicide is enough to elevate this one above your typical nutter theories. I believe the US Gov knew 9/11 was going to happen. And X-200B. Note, I'm not saying they did it. Which is already an extremely horrible idea, that I could still totally believe they'd do. Rather, I think they knew it was gonna happen. And because they were already itching for a reason to go to war in the Middle East. And X-200B. They just kinda let it. And X-200B. And X-200B. Because, let's be real here, the US is always looking for a reason to go to war. The Catholic Church is sitting on thousands of years of ancient texts in the Vatican. I personally believe that since they refuse to release basically any of it, they're hiding it because they at least believe that a lot of the texts disprove or call Christianity into question. I firmly believe that the Pope and other Vatican Catholic leaders don't truly believe in Christianity and are in it for the power and money. I can see the first part being true. But I don't think it would disprove Christianity. It could possibly disprove some central tenet of the Church, a la the Da Vinci Code. Historically speaking, it is fairly certain that the man known as Jesus Christ did exist, preached what became early Christian teachings, and amassed a group of followers. We also know that those followers continued to spread his teachings after he was crucified, for which there is also reliable historical evidence. Thus, Christianity. But maybe it's just a cult that has persisted for a couple millennia. Who knows? Darth Jar Jar. In Star Wars, Jar Jar Binks was originally intended to be a Sith Lord, but was later pathetically transformed in the goofy character we know today for reasons. Yes, watched a video about this, how he manages to kill so many people but in an accidental goofy way as to cover the fact he was a Sith Lord. Pandas do not exist, they are just trafficked Chinese men in panda suits. Username checks out. After realizing how pro-union their movie Newsies was, Disney decided to promote it as little as possible, hoping it would flop and be forgotten. That anybody who believes the moon landing was fake is complete fucking idiot. If the moon landing had been faked, we would have shown sexy people doing sexy things on the moon. The assassination of JFK being a culmination of multiple sort of offenses to the mob. I do believe that the mob played a role in the Union drive for JFK. That JFK's interest in Cuba was not entirely separate from the mob's interest. That Bobby going after the mob plus failed Bay of Pigs ultimately resulted in Kennedy being killed. I find it likely that Oswald was a paid hitman and that Jack Ruby tried to further cover it up. Yep. Oswald and Jack Ruby were both connected to Carlos Marcello, who had it in for the Kennedys. The Warren Report either didn't discover or chose to omit that connection. https://TheMob Museum. Org notable names Carlos Marcello. https://TheMob Museum. Org notable names Carlos Marcello. My dentist growing up in the UK had this weird flavored mouthwash. Very distinctive. Since moving to Canada I have discovered that flavor to be root beer. I wholeheartedly think the British dentistry industry is trying to secretly get kids to associate American culture with pain. Aliens are among us, just not how we think they're supposed to look like. I mean, holy fuck, we have an immortal jellyfish in our ocean that looks right out of a H.P. Lovecraft book. That aliens are real. In my mind, the real conspiracy is not about whether they exist or not, but if they have visited Earth and their spaceships have been observed. The former is a given. The latter is what is being covered up. Foreign troll farms are posting social media garbage to divide Americans. This one is literally proven. Maddie McCann is dead. Her parents didn't kill her, but I believe she died in the apartment whilst unsupervised and they panicked and hid the body. Read Goncalo Amaral book. He was the initial Portuguese investigator on scene. It's literally the only conspiracy I believe. The cadaver blood dogs both picked up a scent in the apartment and their hire car. The US is an oligarchy. This is just factual. Monero, BTC, and other cryptocurrencies were created by various intelligence agencies as a kind of honeypot. I think the US Gov holds more crypto than any other person or corporation, and that they will crash them all when it's convenient, say, to kill an inflation event. Who cares if a bunch of crypto millionaires lose it all? They did nothing to earn it in the first place. No one will feel bad but a select few. It also makes it easier for the SIA to do shady shit or the Gov to buy things off the books. Anyways, that's my nutter take. Lee Harvey Oswald may or may not have shot Kennedy from the book Depository, but he wasn't the only shooter and he didn't act alone. That absolutely no politician has our best interest in heart, whether they look good on the surface or not. I will always believe there is a more sinister ulterior motive. That the US shot down Flight 93. We were never going to know who got control of that cockpit. They were also well over an unpopulated region. As sad as it was, it's easier to shoot it down and make everyone on the plane a hero they were, then wait and see what happens. Screw the Earth being a sphere. Screw it being flat. I don't believe that the Earth is real. We're already living in a simulation. Okay. But in reality, outside the simulation, are we just in a giant spaceship or something? That purse companies and pants companies agreed for women's pants to have no pockets, or pockets that are impractically small, so that women go and buy more purses. Intelligence agencies were at least aware that 911 was a possibility but failed to act on it either through incompetence or information gridlock. That's not a conspiracy. That's fact, mostly due to the wall between agencies, and FBI agents who worked it would agree. That déjà vu is your brainwaves crossing paths with a version of yourself from an alternate reality. Whenever you have a déjà vu, it's because an alternate version of yourself already experienced that moment and somehow the realities cross paths for a split second and you relived that moment. That's why you have those moments where you think, wait, this has happened before, but the outcome is either slightly different or exactly the same. A version of you did it already and somehow that data crossed over to you and it comes off as a form of memory. I know this isn't the point of the thread, but the theory I read stated that it's just your brain fucking up and sending something to long-term memory instead of short-term memory. Bigfoot is real and is an evolutionary divergent of humans that remained more closely related to early man that we've driven to near extinction through urbanization and deforestation. Just playing devil's advocate, why haven't we found more fossils or bones of Bigfoot? Marilyn Monroe was assassinated. It wasn't until about 3 years ago it occurred to me she could have overdosed. It was simply cemented as fact to me that she was murdered. I believe our phones, tablets and TVs are listening our conversations at home. So many times we would be chatting about random shit only to see ads for it on our phones little later. I think Alexa and some others have been in trouble for this. You can see what traffic is happening over a network. So, not like a 24/7 stream, but bits can be captured by certain software or systems that some people willingly opt into. Epstein had billionaires piping out underage chicks on his island and his plane. I believe the world and human existence comes in cycles and we have been here before. In some form or another. We have had major technological advancements and wiped ourselves out. All that's left are buildings somehow. Social media was created for the exact purpose of manipulation. A long time ago, back in like days, it was talked about that MySpace and Facebook would become the best psyops platform that would be used in the future. Big Oil and Plastics created the recycling campaign so people could still feel good about buying plastic, disposable products. In reality, the majority of plastic cannot be recycled further. Recycling isn't cost effective in the slightest. China was burying our recycling for years. Selling art is just another way to launder money. It makes no sense how some art is worth millions and it's only as valuable as the person buying it. If you ever have adaptive cruise control, you will have it on every car you own after. All the people doing everything they can to prevent any meaningful action to prevent climate change know exactly how bad it's going to get. They just don't care because they'll either be dead before it gets that bad or they think they'll be in a position to escape the worst of it. Epstein didn't kill himself. Social media is to distract people from reality. Cadbury egg.